Fredrik, how you doing?
Hi, great, thank you. And you are? Is it busy?
Yes, yeah, busy as always. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's a great week, but we're still
Good.
not done. So that's week ends in Sunday afternoon, evening, night.
Yeah,
I usually like before Monday kicks off at like 0700 in the morning. That's how long the week is. So
yeah,
6:59 it's still weekend, and 7:00 it's Monday starts again.
yeah,
It's good.
non-stop.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
good to hear. Well, thanks for joining the podcast today. I appreciate it. I guess, yeah, I mean, if kick things off, tell our listeners about the early days of Fredrik, where you started in life, your early career in the SAF, and how then from there, how the kind of the whole journey unfolded, and how you kind of navigated through your career to becoming the co-founder of Arctic Space today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of where to start, but in the early days, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So first of all, I think when I was in the gymnasium, so I'm from Sweden, in the northern parts of Sweden, a city called Ormskullsvik, and one thing that is massive there is the hockey interest. However, I never became an ice hockey player, but I still have a huge interest for the hockey team. Another thing was brought up where it was important to work. Kind of a DNA in the family. You should do as good as you can, and hopefully a bit more, and that will create a good future for you. When I was in gymnasium as well, figuring out what to do. So environmental questions started to come there. It's in the mid-90s. And you had like the Rio conference, and a lot of things were starting to fall into place for sustainability. So I thought that's a good idea. Future workplace, future work area. And then I studied sustainability, environmental questions, and so on. I had the opportunity to work with noises and so on, and it became quite a big thing, mostly high noises and in like important environments where children had activities. Though I faced the reality, and like you will become the noise specialist here, then high noise professor soon, and I couldn't really face myself like looking in the mirror. That's not really what I am. I don't think that was meant to be, and then I started to look for something else, more management, and those things that really touched me. And I thought armed forces have a great reputation. I was doing the ground course when I was 18, 19, and so I applied for a job there within environmental questions. But one thing led to another, and I spent 10 years in the Swedish Armed Forces, and just 1 or 2 within environmental areas. And then it was logistics, management, and a lot of more or less everything that nobody else wanted to do. And that's kind of the bit of the story of my career. I'm pretty easy to say yes to things because I'm curious. And it also feels like a challenge. Many people in my surroundings says no, and I kind of just automatically says yes. I will take that on, and that kind of led to a lot of different things, and a great time, especially when I look back. Also, all the great experience that I collected during these 10 years with the different type of management positions in the armed forces. But I also felt that I was still very curious and wanted to do something outside, because you built a very strong network within these part of questions.
yeah,
Mostly people that it's militaries, officers, and those around it, but not really the business of the commercial part of the society. So I resigned, and was luckily headhunted to a workplace that started to open the doors to space. So that's how it really started, because I was offered a position as a general manager for a test facility for different weapon systems connected to. In the baseline, it was Saab and Swedish Air Force and But however, Swedish Space Corporation, a company that I've heard of, but not really much more, they had won a contract to run the operations for the technical staff, the engineers, the project leaders, and so on. And they also operate S-Range as a European space range up in Kiruna in Sweden. So for 3 years, I was working with aerospace, but the systems that were used was also used for doing some measures for sounding rockets, for example. And when the time came that I needed to take a decision what I would like to do, I also had some help because I was offered a new position within Swedish Space Corporation for the so-called ground systems, antennas, satellite communication, which honestly I had very, very little experience of. So I explained it to the CEO of Swedish Space Corporation that, and this sounds amazing. I mean, you asked me the question, I would say yes, but I also like to ask you the question. So do you know that I'm not, really that skilled at all, I would say, within ground systems and satellite operations and how the communication works? And he said, no, I know, Fredrik. Yeah, for sure. Don't worry. But you have people that knows that. So, I mean, your role is to lead leaders. You should be a thought leader. We have some challenges. We have some improvements that should be made within the team's communication, team building, cultural, like obstacles needed to be, needed to make some improvements because Swedish Space Corporations would operate in North America, South America, in the Asia Pacifics, several places in Sweden. And he thought that I would be a good mixture of different things and could take that on. So 2016 was it when I really started to work then within the SATCOM business, RF questions, but I still had a great team, and that team also had a team of people. So I was more strategic and had, I would say, not being aware where I would be 6-7 years later, and perhaps lucky, but that's the fun stuff. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And how was Arctic Space born? How did that come around?
So I did the tour within Swedish Space Corporation until end of 19, and then I resigned because once again my curiosity took over, and somebody else's curiosity was in good synchronization with me because I had a phone call from the founder team of Arctic Space, Benjamin Fischer, Sandra Nilsson, and Felix Hessinger. They had learned that this guy Fredrik apparently was on the market, available, and he had experience from this SATCOM ground station business area, and they had started Arctic Space in 2019. We met together in 2020, and we clicked great. So then my experience from Swedish Space Corporation and all of these big company, I would say, way of doing things came to good knowledge because these guys of entrepreneurs and engineers, and that's an amazing mix of people. Honestly, I have never met a similar setup of people that have this unique mixture and competence and personalities. That's amazing for a startup, but going head to head in a business that's really much conventional. And it took some time, probably, see that I could also fit into the team with my knowledge and experience, a bit older than the rest of the founder teams. But I was offered a piece of Arctic Space and definitely couldn't resist it. And from there in 2021 and up until now, it's full speed ahead, and we're doing great progress with the company.
Good. And what do Arctic Space do? How do you guys fit into the overall sort of space ecosystem, and where do you see the company kind of evolving and going over the next 3 to 5 years?
So we have evolved by adapting kind of what I am as a person as well, and that's a good fit for Arctic Space because we really never turned anything interesting down.
Yeah.
And that have led us to where we are today. And I'm sure that it's going to lead us to something else in 5 years that we don't really see at the moment. Because what we do today and what we have grown the company on, it is the hosting market within the ground station activity. So hosting, we customers, we have satellite operators that have satellites in space. We have the need of bringing the data from a satellite down to Earth. And when you have it on the Earth, you need to transfer it to somewhere else. So you need to handle it in some way. So we are the node on the ground, and Arctic Space found it with the market assessments that we had also, that there's a need of a more agile, a more, I would say, customer-centric and flexible approach to the customer's need. So what the customer says to us, in this case, we have an antenna system. We know that your location looks interesting because we can understand it from how the satellites are moving. So we have a ground station facility. It was just, bushes and stuff.
Yeah.
And they it started with Viasat, the US company, and it's a small world. It's not unlike many others, but friends from before, old colleagues as well, approach us and say, we would like to test how your proposal for us would look like compared to the existing market leaders. And that's kind of our niche. So we find where they are not that competitive. And where could that be? If you seek something that's fast, can adapt extremely successful to customer changes, because sometimes the customer, they ask for one thing and 2 weeks later they realize they need something else, and we are super skilled in doing that, because that's kind of how we are as people. And then we can design the solution for them much faster than anybody else, and starting to build the trust. And then we have the location where we started Arctic Space, in a city called Pitya, which have a great mixture of everything. It's not perfect for all, but it's super nice, and it's a really sweet spot. And what that means, it's good for satellite communications. It's not the best. It could have been a bit more north, but we have, what I'm usually saying, less of a lot. We have less issues with the climate. We have less wind, less snow. We don't have as much minus degrees during the winter. We have less distance to the airport, distance to the harbor. So it becomes much more easy. In the end, we have a lower cost for the customer that we can offer. So we are competitive. What we say that we're commercializing the ground segment.
Okay. Nice. And following on from that, what are your thoughts on the kind of the current status of the satellite communication industry and ground segment sector? How do you see that part of the industry kind of evolve? I know it's hard to tell right now, especially with the resurgence of AI and things like this. But how do you see that part of the industry evolving over the next 5 years, and what role do you see Arctic Space playing in that evolution?
I see that we have a great fit because we are curious, and we would like to be the solution for the future technical issues that might be in the business. So we are very much wanting to prepare ourselves to be able to deliver what's coming. I see that the business will be more increased by satellites communicating with satellites. So that means that the reason for having a great location on the ground will be more important than to have a lot of locations on the ground. So you need to be on the right places to be most efficient, because if you're in 2 places but you're not using them that much, you mean you have a higher costs, and that needs to be covered, and the cost will be covered by the customer, or you will make a loss. So we will have fewer places. That's how I see the business. But those locations need to be managed to handle a lot of data. Okay. So the data processing will increase. It's easier and easier to access to space. Around 10,000 satellites in orbit active today. Within 10 years, 80,000. What does that mean? What type of technical solutions? Is it current or is it the future? Phase array systems will increase. We see, but the prices will go down. It's just how fast that's going to be until it's competitive enough, because it's too expensive, but it's going to happen. Laser communications is going to be evolving as well. Really looking forward to see the improvements in that specific area in relations to weather issues. So optical here in the north is not that successful, I would say. But in other locations, definitely it's going to be more used, which will have an effect on today's regulatory as well, because the regulatory aspects on RF frequencies where we are assisting our customers, but from the optical is different.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for giving that overview. And it's been really interesting to hear your journey and your story as to how you not just got in the space industry, but then eventually come to co-found Arctic Space as well. And that was one of the main drivers of doing this whole podcast, is to actually make space more accessible, tell the story about how you got into space, all these types of things. And one thing I wanted to ask is, what do you think we could and should be doing more of to try to encourage people like yourself, the younger generation, other people from different industries, different walks of life, to try and get into the space sector? Because space is thriving. I think that's clear to see everywhere. US, Europe, UK, UAE, all these places. It's not really getting any easier to actually find the talent to kind of sustain and maintain the growth. So is there more we could be doing at, even like a STEM level in schools, colleges, universities? And I don't want it to be just all about, the younger generation, because I also think there's great people in different industries now, like, automotive and all these things, that they look at space and still now there's that common perception that, oh, it's just all rocket scientists and astronauts and PhDs and all this type of thing. So what could we be doing more to try and encourage more people to get into the space sector?
I mean, it's a great question. And what I also seen that when I had another position, it was in a society, it was few people living there, and it was a tech, this test facility. Once a year had a day when before you graduated high school, and you would supposed then to choose your program to study more. The kids were invited, and there's special teams to create curiosity with the females, because you can see that there were a lack of those that wanted to study higher educations with as engineers. And then it's just making more just interesting in a way, and not complex, because usually, so I was having a harder time, more challenging for me, the technical subject in school, physics and mathematics and chemistry. Found history very easy and fun in that way, and language and so on. But you also realize it's much easier when you understand things. So because then I studied to engineer. But the thing is also about what type of role models and teachers do you have. So I think role models that could be so different in depending on, but if you can hear someone that you have some trust towards, and that creates something within you. So you like find something within people. And so it's very hard if you're like talking about, for a country or for like Europe or how to do it. But space then, for example, it's huge. And then it's so many different things, and it's also connect to a lot of different other, because I would say that if somebody asks us, so what do we do? Yeah, we're also looking at software, what type of people, because recruiters they call, and I have a hard time to just say no. So it's easy to have a conversation and explain a bit, and then usually it's the timing that's correct. But the ones that are writing codes and developing games, doing software updates for automotive, for example, battery engineers for now, it's snowmobiling here, it's gardening. Like, these people have a really good fit to the space industry as well. And I think also the ones that can bridge, so not to be super great as an engineer, but you just have to be like curious enough to have the technical, and then you can use your financial experience and knowledge. I heard that, was it at the KTH, one of the university in Sweden would start a new course, was it 25 or 26, near future, where you would have like business and space together, because there are so few that can bridge the two of these areas that have space, and they also understand business. Otherwise you can be a business person and then you focus on those numbers and all of that, but you don't really talk and understand the language of space people. And then when they meet together, it's kind of the collision, because you have too few to understand the big perspective. And I heard a great speech from the astronaut from Sweden, Marcus Wandt, an amazing person and one of these role models that can't believe that the guy is for real, because he's like 5 different people into one. And that kind of, I wish that I would listen to one of those persons 20 years ago, but I didn't. And how I ended up here was also like one of the things that I would like to share. It's like, be curious enough so you don't consider saying no. So you don't have to be bold enough to say yes. Just like, don't focus on saying no too much. Because then that's not really the option. It is the negative side as well. It's hard to feel that enough, when is enough, because it's always something much fun to do. But you don't really know what, but I'm convinced there is. And life is short. Even then, I will do it as long as possible. Try to stay healthy and train and all of that. But and then again, it should be fun. But fun for me could be different for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads on to the next question. This is a bit more targeted around the next generation and the younger generation, all this type of stuff. Is that I think with social media, it has such an impact now on the younger generation that I think a lot of it is so much miss sort of perception of reality of things. Everybody just kind of sees the highlight reels of people's success. They don't really see all of this hard work, all of this sacrifice, all of this dedication that you've just spoken about in terms of learning new things and being brave enough to actually put your head into it, learn it, so you become more confident. They don't see all of the learns and the mistakes and all this type of thing. So for that next aspiring tech entrepreneur, space entrepreneur, even just an individual contributor, what would you say so far are the biggest lessons you've learned over the course of your career?
I mean, honestly, if I would get the question, and so like grade how good you are at something, I would not say that I'm that good. The most people would be better than I am on a lot of stuff, even though I have it in the CV. But it's a matter of like trying to find a solution, not forced on you, but like that's my job, or that is because I think it needs to be done. If nobody else is doing it, of course I would try to do it. I mean, we're the company is growing and it becomes more and more to do, and then it's just we need to do it, and then you learn as it goes. I just have this, like, I studied, so I got really interested in studying after I took my first master's. So the first master was it went well. But then I realized that studying is interesting if you can really choose the subjects. So I started to study finance and management also, and it ended up in another a master's degree. And then I wanted to challenge myself, and then an MBA should be the toughest challenge that you can face in that area. So studied an MBA, and I wouldn't say that all of that really made me a better person or entrepreneur or anything. But you learn a lot also how to plan and how to prioritize and how to take in. And now in the end, what I look back, it is once coming to this, I just have so hard to say no to things. And you don't misunderstand me, it's more very much focused on the work perspective. But I'm a time optimist. Other people tell me. I think I'm a time. I would say that I'm perfect on it, but I'm optimizing my time. Others would say that I'm very optimistic on it. And people say I'm late. I usually say I'm on time. I don't like to waste time.
Yeah.
Any second in waiting is the wasted second. So that's kind of different personalities within different people. And then it is just a lot of hard work and failures that you don't really see as failures all the time, because then it would just be negative. But I have done so many things that probably should be done in a different way or by somebody else.
Yeah.
But that kind of took me to have this conversation to you. With you, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And all those different personalities that you spoke about, with like the time optimist and getting things done, the speed, the execution, and yourself and all the other co-founders, from your guys' perspective and kind of how you've currently built Arctic Space to date, what does like a good workplace culture look like to you guys, like from your perspective? And I know this is different for everybody. What are kind of like the core key ingredients to having a successful and winning business culture?
I mean, people with a drive to have this like engine within themselves. I mean, you will push each other. You can look at ice hockey teams, the ones that really successful. They also have a high level of competition within themselves. And I think that if you just put together a number of people that all of them wanted to achieve something with the company, and we want to do, not just good or great things, we want to do amazing things. And we have done probably a unique journey so far what we have built, because we have established the largest ground station facility for LEO satellite operations in Sweden. And then you might say, so Sweden is a smaller country, but it's a huge player in this business. So that's a really good thing and achievement to have done. So a different mindset of the people, what they need to have this urge to accomplish something. I think it's we have Austrian, German, two from Sweden. That's the founder team. In 15, 16 years between us, female, males, you have this mixture of culture and ages and sex, and that's creates something that can lead to great results. And that's kind of this. And then how to find this atmosphere and work culture, respect for each other, listen more than you talk, be interested in what others say, also what they say about you, because it could be really valuable for me to understand what they really mean, and to have this open climate where it's allowed to speak and share with each other and discuss, and then you decide and you move on. Everybody don't need to agree that was the best, but now you have decided that that's the thing we're going to do, and then we're going to push for it. So that, I think, but then you don't need to waste energy on starting to have the other consuming, and that, because that would just be leakage of energy, And if you leak, it's not going to be winning a new business, and the customer is going to feel this. And a lot of things that is based on how we've been able to increase the customers that we have, but also to continue increasing more with the existing ones. It is this relation and trust building with our customer. And then what happens, it opens doors to another one, because our customers are working with partners and customers, and they might also be interested in working with this company Arctic Space that apparently is doing something and outcompeting some other companies that have 10 times our revenue. But that's how it works. And I think that kind of a short summary of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And having I think the agility as well for high speed decision making, and having that collective accountability. Say, okay, this is what we're doing. Let's move forward with it. You mentioned earlier on in the podcast role models, and that was kind of one of my penultimate questions. Is that one of the common themes I am learning and seeing from doing these podcasts is the importance of having good mentors, having good role models. And it's at all different stages, all different seasons of your life. So it could be, when you're young in education and you come out into the real world, employment, all these types of things. But that's the common thing. How would you go about advising people and like I say, in all walks of life, whether they're younger or in industry, like the importance of those role models, the importance of seeking out those mentors, and how do they go about identifying them? Because I think it sounds like such an obvious thing for most people, but again, I think people just don't think about it. But yeah, what would you say is the importance of having those role models, and how would you advise people to go about seeking the right ones, I guess, throughout their career?
It's a bit tough one, because you don't really know if it's the good or the best or just one. But I also think that exploring and having the network, so you can have interactions with several role models or people that will become a role model, because not always you realize it, and you can realize it also afterwards, that I had the opportunity to work with that person, and it had so much of an impression on me, or an impact. And it depends on where you are, like in life. If you're in that age between 15 and 20 or 20 and 30, it's a huge difference on how people would affect you and how open-minded you are. So I realized that I've also been running towards something, but I have no idea what it is. But I am running. It's very important to do something, and to do something new. So I had the opportunity myself then. It was not explicit, and that's like, I would like for you to understand that you're a role model to me, but I understand that the people that, if I reflect a bit, that I see them as role models. And I have we have great people in the board, and it is so amazing to work with two female entrepreneurs within space that we have, Karin Nilsdotter and Laura Todd, for example. They are the things that they can share with me, and from their perspective also, I think it's very valuable for me as a man to listen and understand that female perspective, because I really interested in human interaction and the management and the leadership perspective of that. And if I can be one, in a way to make somebody else grow and become bigger, that I think that this role model and mentorship is. But you need to be curious. I think networking is a great thing. Don't be afraid. I mean, I can only talk for myself. I would be so happy if people would reach out, if they could think that I could, be something of use for them. Yeah. I mean, that is just sharing, and other people have done it with me. And that is, I also like this, stay in touch with people. Yeah. Because I miss friends that I had when I was growing up, because apparently when you move, it's very hard for people to stay in touch, and that's really sad. But I'm really trying to stay in touch with the ones that I've identified as role model. Some extremely successful officer from when I was in the military, and I'm amazed by their career, and of course I can text former CEO of SEC, as I say, board members now. I'm curious enough to find this, like if it's an event, and be strong enough and go and say hi. That I think is the starting of hi. I just think that you're great.
Yeah,
I would be so happy, and if you can give something back.
Yeah, absolutely well said. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been awesome. I'd like to just wrap things up with a final question. That if you could take all of these amazing experiences that you've had, all of these life and career lessons, and kind of distill them all down into one actionable piece of advice for these people that we've been talking about throughout the whole show, whether it's the younger generation or the people in the different industries, what would you say, and what would your advice be for those people that are looking to get into space this year and beyond?
I mean, I would guess it's the best place to be in today, and for the future to be. It's gonna happen so much. It's gonna be, the pace is gonna increase. I think that you also need some energy as a person, because it's just a matter of how much you want to do. It feels like I'm blessed that the things that I've just said yes to have led me to this role that I have now, and have the opportunity to live the dream. And being a spacepreneur feels amazing, and taking Arctic Space to success and beyond, because I think that now is really when things are going to happen a lot. So it's just, if you want to work, if you want to have fun, exciting, it's a place for engineers, tech, finance, business, HR, admin, people with degrees. You don't stop. That's it's so much that needs to be done.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining the podcast today. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on. I'll send you the final version. This episode will actually be released on Wednesday next week. Okay. So I'll share it on LinkedIn, everything else. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome. Have a good rest of your day, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Likewise, Dan. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.